This is a Lancia 2000 HF, and it's the missing link Lancia that time forgot. In this video I'm going to drive it and tell the story of why this lovely car wasn't really meant to exist at all. If you asked pretty much anyone to name 10 Lancias, I bet they wouldn't list the 2000, which is a shame because it's rather a good one. It was sold from 1971 to 1975 and is essentially a Mark III version of the Flavia of the 1960s, without the wings and flutes and with a bigger engine. It was always fairly exclusive. Priced about 20% higher than the smaller Alfa Romeo GTV, though a fair bit less than the larger 6-cylinder BMW E9 CS and Fiat 130 Coupe, it sold to people like the partner at Price Waterhouse, the accountancy firm who bought this one new in February 1975. Another owner was Storm Thorgerson, the legendary creator of prog rock album artwork. In fact, his 2000 Coupe features on the cover of Peter Gabriel's eponymous first solo album, with Mr. Gabriel sitting inside out of the rain. This means, of course, that the Lancia 2000 is officially cool by law. So why on earth did Fiat want to kill it? By the late 1960s, Lancia as a business was running out of road. It was too small to compete in an increasingly international marketplace. Its factories were underutilised and it was heavily overstaffed. The search for new investors proved fruitless until eventually in 1969 a somewhat reluctant Fiat was persuaded by Italian politicians to buy the business, safeguarding jobs and keeping the prestigious brand in Italian hands. As Matteo Licata from the Roadster Life channel points out in his excellent book on the Lancia Gamma, Fiat bought Lancia for roughly the price of a 128 saloon. Fiat took on 100 billion lira of debt, the equivalent of an eye-watering £1.4 billion today, and a commitment to keeping on 12,000 workers in 3 different factories. Lancia built 31,000 cars in 1969, but Fiat's new managers worked out that to break even it would have to make 3 times that number. The Flavia was beautifully engineered, but it was way too complex and costly to make. Its philosophy came from a different age, and it was due, maybe overdue, for replacement. But Antonio Fessia, Lancia's technical director, had died back in the summer of 1968, having been ill for some time, and there was simply no technical development pipeline. Fiat had little choice but to give the Flavia a rebadge, drop the smaller engine versions, add the HF badge and fuel injection option, and roll it out for another few years, while they hastily cracked on with designing first the Beta and then the Gamma. But that's another story, or rather 2 other stories. The HF stands for High Fidelity. This is nothing at all to do with stereos. 1970s Lancia brochures gush lyrically about fidelity of the driving experience through translating the driver's inputs to the road, and fidelity in the sense of reliability through the quality of the engineering. In fact, the origins of the HF badge go back further and show a surprisingly modern approach to marketing for Lancia. The company started an exclusive club for customers who'd bought at least 6 cars, later 10, and gave them a little badge to celebrate their high fidelity to the mark. Soon afterwards, members of this high fidelity club formed a privateer racing team called the HF Squadra Corse and set about rallying Fulvia coupes. Lancia itself gave the privateers increasing levels of backing, until HF Squadra Corse eventually became the official works rally team, and achieved great things. The HF label was added to the most sporting variants of Lancia road cars, starting with the Fulvia Coupe and followed by this Lancia 2000, and of course going on to the Stratos and the Delta Integrale and so on and so forth. The interior is really special. The thing that strikes you first is this fabulous headlining, followed by the thick boardroom chairs, the business-like instrument binnacle, and the glossy wood of the standard Nardi steering wheel. It's all very reminiscent of something like a Riva Aquarama speedboat. There are some elegant details here that are familiar from other Lancias, not least the Gamma Coupe that replaced this car. These aluminium finishes on the doors, for example, and the bins in the footwells here. The dash is a lot more stylish than the Gammas though, which isn't horrible, but it is all a bit plastic and ordinary for a Lancia. Outside, the delightful touches continue. Pininfarina badges here in honour of not just the designer but also the manufacturer of the coupe version of the 2000. Clear rather than amber indicator lights here in the front bumper, commonplace these days but amazingly exotic in the early 1970s. This kind of fluted design on the boot lid was a stylised echo of the winglets on the original Flavia coupe, themselves reminiscent of the Ferrari 250 GTE. Pininfarina being great ones for not using a design just once, and those are another feature that Pininfarina and Lancia carried over to the Gamma Coupe. As with previous Flavias, it's a flat 4 boxer engine, Lancia's own. It'll do 0 to 60 in 9-point-something seconds and onwards to 118 miles an hour, although it's not really a squealing the tyres off the line sort of car.
It's super responsive on the throttle. I'm in 4th gear here and it's got the flexibility to do more or less anything. Feels like I'm holding it back.
This HF version of the 2000 gets Bosch D-Jetronic fuel injection and electronic ignition, giving it 123 brake horsepower at a slightly revvy 5,800 RPM and 127 pound-foot of torque at 3,700 RPM.
And there's faith that it'll still pull away 2,000 odd RPM. Really flexible. It's a dogleg gearbox, which takes a little bit of getting used to. So I'm in 3rd gear now, that's down. The key is not to put it into reverse when you're heading for 1st. But it means that as you switch between 2nd and 3rd for windy, twisty roads or even in traffic, that's just a simple, natural forward and back movement. So while it's unusual and therefore take a bit of getting used to, it's actually really logical. Quite a lot of initial travel on the brakes. Not sure if that's just this car or just how they are. But the brakes, once you've done the initial travel, the brakes were actually pretty good. What a fantastic cruiser.
If you want to start a food fight at a Lancia Motor Club dinner, just state an opinion on what constitutes the last proper Lancia. Personally, I'm a fan of the Beta and I love my slightly broken Gamma, and I even once rescued a near-dead Dedra. But even I will concede that none of those is a Lancia quite like this one. I try to avoid tired cliches, so I won't say the doors close like a bank vault. But they do close just like a very heavy metal cabinet that you'd maybe keep 100 billion lira in. It may be massively over-engineered, but it's a fabulous Grand Tourer. It's supremely stylish yet elegantly understated at the same time, and frankly, Fiat's losses are very much our gain. It's about time that I gave this, my Lancia Gamma Coupe, some love and got it back on the road again so that I can enjoy driving it and I can make some more videos about it. In the meantime though, if you're after some more Lancia action, then I recommend clicking on this next.